Thanks for coming, everyone, on such a beautiful day. But I think our readings will evoke spring here because the animals are going to be present. These medieval fables are taken from a number of sources. Most of them are from Latin sources, but a couple of them are in the vernacular languages, like English, Italian, and French. Some of the fables are direct descendants of the Aesopic tradition, so some of you might recognize these fables from your own experience and reading. Others, though, are medieval in origin. All of them, though, are written to be relevant to medieval concerns, and they're suitable to medieval moral environments. So they're not really finely classical fables by the time we're getting a hold of them. Some of these fables have morals attached to them, but others don't, and you have to kind of figure out what they're trying to illustrate, almost like riddles. Some of them provide quite open topical satire on things like the corrupt church or the legal system or the social classes. Some of them are really funny. I think we're going to see some laughing here. Others are more serious, so there's just a great variety of narrative here. Now, animal fables tend to form part of the school curriculum for young boys. As boys learned Latin in primary school, the fables would help them with vocabulary, grammar, etc., by giving them memorable little stories to entertain them and to sort of get them to think about morality, too. But they already might have been known, the little boys might already have known some of these stories because a lot of them have very deep roots in the folk tradition and might have been passed along orally from family to family from time immemorial, at least in their barest outlines. I think adults liked these stories too, and the social satire provides an outlet for very adult concerns about corruption in social institutions. The fables do something else, too. They teach children about animal behavior. Sometimes the animal portraits, though, are based on stereotypes about animals and prejudices that humans have about the beasts. But the fables show some surprisingly accurate observations about animal habitat, animals' food, the differences between wild and domestic animals, very basic knowledge about the animal world. And this is very useful knowledge for young people to have. Hopefully, we'll have some time at the end to discuss these fables or answer questions about them. I'd like to introduce Amanda Gerber and Ryan Judkins. They're doctoral students in our program in English. And we're going to divide the fables really into three groups. We're going to do the first, which is about social satire. Then we're going to do a group concerning general morals. And then we're going to do a longer, more elaborate fable at the very end. So we really have a kind of three-pronged program here. So with that, I think I'll begin, and I'm going to read you the first of our social satire fables. It's called The Dog and the Sheep. A deceitful dog brought a sheep to court, claiming falsely that the sheep had not returned a loaf of bread he had loaned her. The sheep pled before the judge, "This is all a lie. He never lent me anything." The judge asked the dog if there were any witnesses that could back his suit. The dog replied, "Oh, yeah, I've got two witnesses, a wolf and a kite." He brought forward his two witnesses, and each of them swore under oath that everything the dog said was true. The judge then said to the sheep, "Why are you denying that the dog lent you the bread? Why are you lying about such petty stuff? Return the bread to the dog." The poor sheep couldn't comply because she had no bread. She had nothing. So she had to sell her woolen fleece to pay the court settlement, and then she froze to death in the winter. After she died, the dog, the wolf, and the kite all shared her carcass for a fine day's meal. This fable serves to teach us that many men force the poor to go to court where they use lies and deceit. They also bring false witnesses who themselves benefit from the losses of the poor. The rich just don't care as long as they get what they want. Okay. All right. Next.
The next one here is called The Frogs Asked for a King. Once there were frogs living in the ditches and the ponds, and they got together and decided to make a request to Jupiter to give them a king. Jupiter complied and threw a big piece of wood into the water and told them that was their new king. The frogs were frightened at the noise the wood made when it splashed. But when they finally approached it, they saw that it was just a piece of rotten wood. They turned to Jupiter and prayed to him sweetly that they be given a new, better king. So Jupiter gave them a heron as their king. The heron proceeded to eat all the frogs, one after the other, and when the frogs saw that their king was destroying them, they wept tenderly to Jupiter and implored him to deliver them from the throat of the tyrant. "No," said Jupiter, "you've been given everything you've asked for." The moral of this fable is that one should value one's freedom and be careful in choosing a king.
The next one is entitled The Mouse and the Cat. A mouse once accidentally fell into a vat of brewing beer. A cat passed by and heard the mouse screaming and crying for help. "What are you squawking about?" asked the cat. "I'm drowning," said the mouse. "What will you give me if I pull you out?" asked the cat. And the mouse answered, "I'll do anything you ask." The cat then said, "If I pull you out, will you promise on oath that you'll come to me whenever I call you in the future?" The mouse said, "Yes, I give you my solemn promise, on oath." The cat then saved the mouse. Later that week, when the cat felt hungry, he showed up at the mouse's hole and called for the mouse to appear. "Don't forget that you promised me you'd come when I called," said the cat. "Oh no," said the mouse. "I didn't mean what I promised. I was drunk when I made that vow." Thus it is with many men. When they are ill or endangered or imprisoned, they make pledges that they have no intention of keeping.
Okay. This is called The Lion King. Once a lion was made king of all the other beasts. He called in an ape to see him, and he asked the ape, "Ape, does my breath stink?" The ape quite truthfully said, "Yes, indeed, sir. Your breath is foul." Angrily, the lion had the ape immediately put to death for treason. The lion then called in a sheep. "Sheep, does my breath stink?" The sheep, too terrified to speak, said nothing, and the lion had the sheep put to death immediately for failure to obey. The lion then called in a fox. "Fox, does my breath stink?" The fox, craftily and in a flattering fashion, hoping to preserve his life, said, "Oh, no, my lord, your breath is as sweet as perfume." The lion then immediately had the fox put to death for being a liar. Okay, the moral of the story is that one should flee tyrants, for tyrants will imperil all who surround them.
This one is entitled The Cat as Monk. In a certain pantry, there was a cat who had caught and eaten most of the mice who lived there, all except one little mouse. In order to catch this last fellow, the cat pretended to be a monk, shaving the crown of his head and putting on a skull cap. When the mouse saw this, he rejoiced in the belief that the cat would no longer chase him or want to do him harm. The mouse therefore ran hither and thither and paid no attention to the cat monk. The cat monk averted his eyes and pretended to avoid the vanity of all worldly appetites. One day, however, when the mouse got close to him, The cat seized it and held it fast in his claws. The mouse shrieked, "Why do you act so cruelly? Why don't you let me go? Haven't you become a monk?" The cat replied, "I'm a monk when I want to be, but when I want to, I'm a bishop." And with that, he devoured the mouse.
That must be satire on bishops. I can't figure that out. I think bishops were very grasping in the end. This one's called The Bat. Once the lion, king of beasts, declared war on the birds, and he mustered his troops together. The eagle, leader of the bird kingdom, got his troops ready too. The bat watched the battle begin, but he didn't know what side he was on, being a little like a bird and a little like an animal. He wanted to be on the winning side, though, so he surveyed the battle cautiously from the top of a tree. Figuring that the beasts had more troops, he decided to join them, and he entered the battalion of the mice. As the battle raged on, the bat realized that the birds were taking the lead, so he covered up his feet, deserted the animal troops, crept over to the other side, and joined the side of the birds. When he got over to their side, he spread his wings to show solidarity with them. But alas, when he spread open his wings, his feet were uncovered, and everyone could then see his treachery and disloyalty. Both the animals and the birds cried out against the bat, desiring God to punish it. And it was punished indeed. The Creator took away its eyesight and stripped it of its feathers. The moral of this fable is that traitors deserve exposure, shame, and strong punishment. Bats must have mammal-looking paws instead of bird feet, right? I think that's what this is noticing about that animal. Okay?